Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Science of Self-Realization session today, Sunday morning. So before we begin our session, let's offer our prayers to Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra ki jai Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai Nitai Gaura Premanande ki. So in today's Science of Self-Realization session, we have been discussing from this book since almost 1 year. We'll be having a very interesting topic called The Art of Dying. So this topic is actually an article written by Srila Prabhupada in his magazine called Back to Godhead in the 1950s, 60s. So it's a very interesting topic with regard to how we have to prepare ourselves for death. We have heard about art of living, but Prabhupada is giving us a wonderful perspective about the art of dying, because all of us have to give up this body today or tomorrow. So what are the various steps we have to take? What are the preparations we have to do? Because death is inevitable for all of us, is what Prabhupada is going to give us a wonderful perspective. We're going to have this session in 3 sessions, 3 parts. So today is the first part of this understanding. So let's begin our session. The Art of Dying, part 1. So all these discussions are happening because of the wonderful mercy of Srila Prabhupada, who has so compassionately given us these teachings in a very, very simplistic manner for all of us to understand and follow and put them in practice in our day-to-day lives. So Prabhupada begins this article with his own personal experience with his small son, who is 3 or 4 years old. So the incident is named as "Father, are you married?" So what happened is that Prabhupada had his son, younger son, walking with him. And as you know, small children are always inquiring constantly. What is that? What is this? So many things. The parents have to satisfy all the inquisitiveness of the small children. So the child is generally asking so many odd things, and the father has to go on answering every small thing which the child is asking. Right? That is how children are. All of us have experienced it. So Prabhupada is giving his own personal example. When I was a young father in my household life, I was overflooded with hundreds of questions from my second son, who was my constant companion. So one day it so happened that a bridegroom's party was passing our tram car, and the 4-year-old boy, as usual, inquired what the big procession was. As you know, in Calcutta during early 1920s, 30s, there were tram cars. Even now there are tram cars, but at that time it was very much popular. So Prabhupada was traveling in the tram car, and they happened to see a marriage party going there. So the son, generally, being very inquisitive, asked his father, "What is this all happening?" So all possible answers was given by Prabhupada to his son. So many questions he had, 1,001 questions regarding the marriage party. And finally, the question which his son had was, "Father, are you married?" Right? So this question gave rise to a loud laughter from all the elderly gentlemen present there. Although the boy was himself very much confused or perplexed as to why we were all laughing. Because the very fact that his innocence with regard to the question was bringing out so much of laughter in people around there that they thought, oh, such a question this boy is asking. Finally, somehow the father, Prabhupada, satisfied his son, telling that yes, I'm married. That way, Prabhupada takes this whole personal life incident to give us an understanding that how we are all inquisitive. All of us are inquisitive. We always keep asking questions. We always want to know things around us, right? So this is how our human mind works, human brain works. We are always asking questions and wanting to know things around us. So with this point, with this aspect of a personal incident, Prabhupada brings about a very important topic known as, what is the most intelligent question one should have in life? Because we have so many questions going on. So Prabhupada says this lesson from this incident is that since a human being is a rational animal, he is born to make inquiries. Right? Because a human being is born with this ability of rationality. He's having this questioning attitude about many aspects in life. This is the difference between an animal and a human being. Prabhupada says if rationality is missing in the human being, he is no better than animal. The greater the number of questions, the greater the advancement of knowledge and science. More and more questions somebody is asking and wanting to know about the various aspects around them, about the reality of life, then more advancement in knowledge as well as in science. The whole of material civilization is based on this originally large volume of questions put by young men to their elders. In fact, Prabhupada says in one more context how in schools, the students are asking questions to the teachers. In market, the customers are asking questions to the vendors. Or you go to court, the lawyers, advocates are asking questions to the different clients there. So like this, everywhere you see this question answer is going on constantly between different people. So this being the case, we see the whole material civilization is actually, in one sense, based on this originally large volume of questions put by youngsters to their elders. When elderly persons give the proper answers to the questions of the youngsters, civilization makes progress, one step after another. That's how the civilization is moving forward based on the various questions, inquiries people have and the solution for those questions. The most intelligent man, however, inquires about what happens after death. So this is the most intelligent question, right? So at least we should know that one day we are supposed to die. So what's going to happen after death? Everything is finished. That's what modern day thinking is. But no, everything is not finished. Our life journey continues. So it is a very important, vital question. And the most intelligent question one can ask, what happens after death? But the questions of those who are more intelligent go higher and higher still. Right? More than above this, there are still more intelligent questions. What happens after death? Where do we go? What is our next life? The less intelligent have lesser inquiries, the more intelligent have higher inquiries. So with this, Prabhupada brings about a wonderful story of one king by name King Parikshit, who had a similar situation of facing death. And what did he do at the time of death? The story goes like this. Among the most intelligent of men was Parikshit Maharaj, the great king of the entire world. He was the emperor of the entire world, who was accidentally cursed by a Brahmana to meet death from the bite of a serpent within 7 days. It so happened that Parikshit Maharaj was on an excursion in the forest, hunting and was moving forward. That time he became very tired and he was looking for, he was very exhausted, so he was looking for some water and a resting place. So he happened to come across a hermitage, ashrama of one sage. When he entered the ashram, the sage was in deep meditation. So he didn't see the king coming there, and then in that way, the king felt that the sage did not receive him well, did not give him proper hospitality. So the king felt insulted. Parikshit Maharaj felt insulted, and because of which he wanted to teach a lesson to this sage because of his misbehavior towards the king. The king felt like that. So he took one dead snake lying there and garlanded this sage, and wanted to teach him that, see, you didn't properly receive me, that this is the punishment. Like this, the Parikshit Maharaj did it in that way, to garland the sage with a dead snake, and he went away. But while going back to his kingdom, he felt, now what he has done is wrong actually. This is the good sense which Parikshit got because he was a devotee. So a devotee will have a good sense because he will think, oh, something wrong I did. I should not have done this, right? So like this, Parikshit was feeling very bad. And meanwhile, the younger son of the sage, who happened to be playing around, he came and saw that his father was, like this, garlanded. He felt that this is, he somehow could figure out that this was done by King Parikshit. He then and there on the spot, he uttered a curse, telling that the king should die within next 7 days by the bite of a serpent. So this is the whole story. This is all explained in the Bhagavatam very nicely. So Prabhupada is just briefly mentioning that. So he was this Parikshit Maharaj was accidentally cursed by a Brahmana to meet death from the bite of a serpent within 7 days. The Brahmana who cursed him was only a boy, right? The son of that sage was a small Brahmana boy. Yet he was very powerful. And because he did not know the importance of the great king, the boy foolishly cursed him to meet death within 7 days. So one side, because that boy was very innocent and ignorant, he did not know what he's doing. So he foolishly cursed the great king that he should meet death within 7 days. Later on, when the sage came to know about his son's ignorance, and is in fact because of childish behavior of the son, he had cursed a great king. The sage was very much morose, and he was lamenting, and what a great blunder my son has done, right? So the sage lamented the boy's activities and the offense he has done towards the king, but it was already late. When the king came to know about this unfortunate curse, he at once left the palatial home and went to the bank of the Ganges, which was near his capital, to prepare for his impending death. The king was very much powerful enough to counteract the curse, but he did not do that. Rather, he took the curse as a blessing from the Lord, and he moved forward, and he left everything. He gave up his kingdom, he gave up his family, everything, and he went to the bank of the Ganges, and he was preparing himself for this impending death. Because he was a great king, almost all the great sages and learned scholars assembled at the place where the king was fasting prior to leaving his mortal body. So basically, when the sage, the Parikshit Maharaj, went to the bank of the Ganges, it was a big news all over the universe. So many great sages across the world came there to attend to the, rather to meet the king and rather see what is going to happen with him, because the king has decided that he is going to, stay at the bank of the Ganges River and perform his devotion, and is about to leave his body. 7th day is what is going to die. So this was a big news. So great sages and great personalities across the universe had assembled at the place where King Parikshit was preparing himself for his death. So when the king was preparing himself like this. At last, this great sage by name Shukadeva Goswami, the youngest contemporary saint, also arrived there, and he was unanimously accepted to preside at that meeting, although his great father was also present. So these are all descriptions given in the Bhagavat, wherein Shukadeva Goswami, who is actually a very enlightened and advanced personality, he was only 16 years old, but his advancement in knowledge and his realization was so great that every other sage respected him because of his enlightenment and realization. The king respectfully offered Shukadeva Goswami the principal seat of esteem and asked him relevant questions regarding the king's passing from the mortal world, which was to take place on the 7th day henceforth. So this is the important point which we have to note here, that the king who had first of all given up everything, his possessions, his kingdom, his family, now he was preparing for death. So the king asked very relevant questions about what he should be doing now. So this is exactly what we are supposed to be asking about ourselves. Prabhupada says in one more context, at least Parikshit had a notice period of 7 days, right? Whereas we don't even have notice of 7 minutes. Right? Anything can happen any moment. So how much more prepared we should be? This is the point. So the questions which the king asked, Parikshit Maharaj asked to Shukadeva Goswami, are very wonderful questions which all of us should contemplate and try to meditate upon and try to so that we follow in the footsteps of the great sage and the great king. So the questions asked by Parikshit and what did Shukadeva Goswami answer, we're going to discuss now. The great king, as a worthy descendant of the Pandavas, who are all great devotees, placed the following relevant inquiries before the great sage Shukadeva Goswami. So what were the questions which Parikshit asked? My dear sir, you are the greatest of the great transcendentalists, and therefore I submissively beg to ask you about my duties at this moment. So this is the question which all of us should ask. I'm going to leave my body one day, today or tomorrow. What should be I doing? What are my duties? What are my responsibilities? And how to face death. So this is called art of dying. If you don't ask this question and don't prepare for death, Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, you will be under the laws of material nature. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyatyante kalevaram. Tam tam eveti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Which means, whatever state of being you have, whatever state of consciousness or state of mind you have, that type of, at the time of death, that type of body or that type of next life you're going to get. So our state of mind, our consciousness at the time of death matters too much. So we have to prepare a proper mentality at a time of death. And what is that mentality? We're going to understand as we move forward in this session. So it is a very wonderful question which all of us should have, because Bhagavatam is teaching us what type of questions as a human being we should have. So Parikshit Maharaj said, I am just on the verge of my death. Therefore, what should I do at this critical hour? Verge of death. All of us are on the verge of death. Please tell me, my Lord, what should I hear? What should I worship? Or whom should I remember now? This is what I was telling. The mentality means what type of thinking you're going through at the time of death matters. Because death is called final examination. If your mentality is absorbed in something mundane, material things, then your next life will be one more material form you're going to get. Same thing if you absorb our mind in Krishna thoughts about Krishna, about Krishna's activities, Krishna's holy name, chanting Hare Krishna. Then Krishna says, Antakale cha mameva sparan muktva kalevaram. Yaprayati samad bhavam. Krishna says, you'll come to my bhava, my nature you'll get. You'll go back to spiritual world. This is the great privilege you're going to have. A great sage like you does not stay at the home of a householder more than necessary, and therefore it is my good fortune that you have kindly come here at the time of my death. So he's, glorifying Shukadeva Goswami about his exalted qualities, that you don't stay with any householders, but I'm so fortunate that you have come to meet me at the time of my death, critical moment you have come. So I'm very fortunate. Parikshit is feeling. Please therefore give me your directions at this critical hour. Please advise me what I should do. Right? So it is a very relevant question which Parikshit has asked. Why? Because at the time of death, mostly people don't know what they should be thinking. They don't know how they should prepare their mind at the time of death. Whatever you have been doing whole life, same thing will come as a flashback. All the things what you have done in the whole life will come as a flashback in your memory, in your mind at the time of death. So death is called final examination. So if for the whole life you have been performing devotional service to Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna, performing various activities pleasing to Krishna, then those activities come in your mind. That is what Krishna wants us, that at the end time, at the last point of our life, we have to remember Krishna in this way. Then our life is glorious. The great sage, having thus been pleasingly requested by the king, answered his questions authoritatively. For the sage was a great transcendental scholar and was also well equipped with good godly qualities, since he was a worthy son of Badarayana or Vyasadeva, the original compiler of the Vedic literature. So Shukadeva Goswami was not an ordinary person. He was the son of Vyasadeva, who is the original compiler of all the Vedic literatures. So he had learned everything from his father, Vyasadeva, about the various aspects of the Vedic understandings, about the purpose of life, what we should be doing, everything he knew very perfectly. So he answered, Shukadeva Goswami answered the questions of Parikshit Maharaj very authoritatively, because he was himself a transcendental scholar, Prabhupada says. Shukadeva Goswami said, my dear king, your inquiry is very much relevant. It is also beneficial for all people of all times. So first of all, Shukadeva Goswami, actually, he appreciated Parikshit Maharaj for his wonderful question, that your question is so relevant that it is going to benefit everybody. This is what generally great personalities have their thinking always going on. They ask questions to great sages, and the great sages feel so good because through these questions, answer to these questions will benefit everybody. Such inquiries, which are highest of all, are relevant because they are confirmed to the teachings of the Vedanta Darshana, the conclusion of the Vedic knowledge, and are Atmavit Sammataha. So Shukadeva Goswami further said, these questions are relevant. Why? Because the answers to these questions will be given from the teachings of the Vedanta Darshana, the essence of all the Vedas. The summary of all the Vedas is compressed in what is known as Vedanta. So answers from that will be given, and this conclusion of Vedic knowledge are approved by all the great personalities, Atmavit Sammataha. In other words, liberated souls who have full knowledge of their spiritual identity put forward such relevant inquiries in order to elucidate further information about the transcendence. So the whole episode of Parikshit Maharaj meeting Shukadeva Goswami is not some accidental incident. Rather, it is ordained by Lord. It's a Lord's plan that Parikshit Maharaj was a great devotee. He did something which made him to be cursed, so that the Lord wanted to bring out the whole Bhagavatam. In fact, this whole incident, what we're discussing now, this is how the Srimad Bhagavatam was finally appeared. Bhagavatam's appearance happened like this. Srimad Bhagavatam, how it was given to the entire humanity, is what is being explained in this whole story. Right? It's like Bhagavad Gita was spoken to Arjuna. Why? Because Arjuna was in great illusion, in confusion, bewildered, and he took the role of an ordinary person, and he was asking some questions which all of us will have. Right? So in that way, Arjuna's questions became the basis of the complete elucidation of Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is again a very vast literature, which is the commentary of Vedanta Sutra, was nicely elucidated. It was presented by Shukadeva Goswami because of this particular incident of Parikshit Maharaj being cursed, and he asking a relevant question to Shukadeva Goswami, and how Bhagavatam appeared for all of us for our benefit. So Srimad Bhagavatam has all the answers for whatever questions Parikshit has asked. It has all the answers. The Srimad Bhagavatam, as I told you, is the natural commentary upon the great Vedanta or Shariraka Sutras, which were compiled by Srila Vyasadeva. The natural commentary means Vyasadeva, after he compiled all the Vedic literatures, he gave the essence of all these Vedas in what is known as formulas or sutras. Just like you have a big mathematics textbook or physics textbook or scientific textbook. At the end, we have the formulas or theorems being, completely nicely mentioned there, right? So the essence of what you have understood is summarized as formulas or theorems. Similarly, Vyasadeva felt a need that Vedic literatures are so vast that I need to summarize them and compress them as what is known as sutras, formulas, known as Vedanta Sutra. And after this, Vyasadeva further elaborated them himself in what is known as Srimad Bhagavatam. The same Vedanta Sutras were further explained, commented by him. That's why it's known as natural commentary. The author himself has commented on the sutras and gave further explanation. That is what is known as Srimad Bhagavatam. The Vedanta Sutras are the topmost Vedic literature, and they contain the nucleus of basic inquiries about the transcendental subject of spiritual knowledge. So Vedanta Sutra, what does it have? What does it contain? The Vedanta Sutra has all the relevant inquiries any intelligent human being can have. And based on the inquiries, the knowledge, complete essence of all the Vedic knowledge to answer those queries is there. Transcendental knowledge is there in that Vedanta Sutras. Yet, although Vyasadeva compiled this great treatise, his mind was not satisfied. As I told you, Vyasadeva himself compiled Vedanta Sutra. Finally, when he was not satisfied by the arrangement of Lord Krishna, Narada Muni appeared, his spiritual master, who advised him to describe the identity of the personality of God. Narada Muni told him that actually you have to elaborate on Vedanta Sutra, otherwise people will not understand what is the actual need. The glorification of Krishna has to happen in a more specific manner. That way people understand what is the purpose of Vedanta Sutra. Otherwise, Vedanta has so many subject matters, people will get lost. People will misunderstand what is what. Upon receiving this advice, Vyasadeva meditated on the principle of Bhakti Yoga, which showed him distinctly what is the absolute and what is the relativity or Maya. Right? Based on this, Vyasadeva started meditation, because before he compiled Srimad Bhagavatam, commentary which he wrote on Bhagavatam, he meditated on Lord Krishna with complete bhakti meditation, principle of Bhakti Yoga. In that way, he could see that there is Lord Krishna and there is also Krishna's illusory energy known as Maya. Having achieved perfect realization of these facts, he compiled the great narration of the Srimad Bhagavatam, or beautiful Bhagavatam. Srimad means beautiful. Srimad beautiful Bhagavatam, which begins with the actual historical facts concerning the life of Maharaj Parikshit. This is how Bhagavatam appeared. Right? Parikshit Maharaj, the Bhagavatam's description begins with Parikshit's story, which we have just now discussed. Unfortunately, mundane artists and intellectuals are ignorant of this beautiful spark of spirit. Right? People are not aware that We are all spirit souls, and they are only concerned about the body. Just like in the last session, we understood about how that wonderful story of truth and beauty. How people become so much enamored by bodily beauty that they forget that they are spirit souls. So this brings us to the important point of discussion with regard to what is the subject matter of Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is telling these inquiries about ourselves, about what is the purpose of life, what happens after death. These questions is what is distinguishing human and animal. So the Vedanta Sutra, what is Vedanta Sutra? The formulas or the compressed aphorisms which Vyasadeva has compiled after he has written all the Vedic literatures, compiled all the Vedic literatures. The Vedanta Sutra begins with this particular inquiry about the transcendence. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. One should now inquire about Brahman or transcendence, Vedanta Sutra says. Which means, now that you have got a human form of life, you should inquire about who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? What happens after death? This is the point. As long as a man is in full vigor of life, he forgets the naked truth of death, which he has to meet. And this is the reality. People don't realize that one day we have to die. People forget the naked truth of death. They think, oh, I'm very powerful, I'm very happy, I'm progressing in life, I'm very civilized. People don't bother whether, tomorrow, one day I have to meet death. What am I doing for that? So this is the difference between the modern materialistic way of life and the Vedic civilization. Vedic civilization, people were all aiming towards how to prepare for our next life, how to have future, better life. Everyone thinks that he will never die, although he sees evidence of death before his eyes at every second. We have become so indifferent with regard to death that we think, I'm not going to die. Everybody else around me is going to die. This is our sheer ignorance. So here is the distinction between animalism and humanity. Right? Prabhupada gives the example of an animal like a goat has no sense of its impending death. Why? Because although its brother goat is being slaughtered, the goat being allured with the green grass offered to it will stand peacefully waiting to be slaughtered next. Right? We see the goats are all in a place where all the goats are being given nicely to eat green grass. They don't know next moment they're going to be slaughtered. They're going to end their life. A similar situation is there for humans. Some humans are all kept captivated like this, and they come to know that after some time they're going to be killed. What they will do? They'll be very disturbed. They don't want to, they want to escape from that place somehow. Just like we hear during World Wars how there were concentration camps, right? So with that situation, you don't want to have a wonderful feast or wonderful food. Right? You don't want to have any comforts. For the time being, you want to save yourself. You can see how a basic difference between a human being and an animal is that animal is totally ignorant about what is going to happen next in my life. So if we lead a life like that, there's no difference between animals and us. That's the point which Prabhupada is trying to make here. On the other hand, if a human being sees his fellow man being killed by an enemy, he either fights to save his brother or leaves, if possible, to save his own life. Right? That is the difference between a man and a goat. So what is birth and death? With this, we come to a very important aspect of what is birth and death, what is happening with our life. So intelligent man knows that death is born along with his own birth. Very philosophical statement Prabhupada is making. The moment we are born, then along with that birth, death also is born. When we are going to die also is destined. Because when you say, oh, this child is 1 month old, which means 1 month he has finished his life. he knows that he's dying at every second and that the final touch will be given as soon as his term of life is finished. This is the way life is, right? We'll be born, we grow, we go on with our life, and the final touch is as soon as our time is over, then that is what is death for us. He therefore prepares himself for the next life or for liberation from the disease of repeated birth and death. Intelligent man will prepare himself. And one day I have to die. What is that I have to do? A foolish man, however, does not know that this human form of life is obtained after a series of births and deaths imposed in the past by the laws of nature. Whereas people who are living like animals, they don't know what is the purpose of this human life. They don't know that they have passed through many repeated births and deaths. Bahunam, Janmanam. Krishna says, millions of births we have taken, million times we have died also. How laws of nature is taking us, through the journey of life, we are not able to see because we are completely ignorant. He does not know that a living entity is an eternal being who has no birth and death. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, for the living entity as a spirit soul, there is no birth and death. But if you think, oh, I am dead means everything is over, that is our foolishness. Just like animals think. A human being is not supposed to be having this consciousness. He has to rise above this consciousness, come to the level of inquiring about his own self, right? Inquiring about the relevant aspects about his life. Birth, death, old age, and disease are external impositions on a living entity and are due to his contact with material nature and to his forgetfulness of his eternal godly nature and qualitative oneness with the absolute whole. Very nicely Prabhupada is telling here, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Birth, death, old age, and disease are actually external impositions on a living entity. Why? Because we have contacted this material world, material nature. And we have contacted this material nature, forgetting our connection with Krishna. Actually, we as spirit souls are all spiritual by nature. Just like we are part and parcel of Krishna. So we are all having spiritual nature. But when we forget Krishna and come in contact with this material world, what happens? We develop, rather, our soul is covered by a material body. This is the beginning of teachings which Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. We are actually not deha, body. We are inside the body, spirit, soul. So the body is actually an external imposition. When you get a body, you go through birth, death, old age, and disease. These are all various aspects which we have to experience in life once you get a body. But as spirit soul, you have nothing to do with this. This is the wonderful revelation which the Bhagavad Gita is telling us. So with this, we come to the importance of what is the importance of human form of life, right? Human life provides the opportunity to know this eternal fact or truth. Okay? So this aspect can be known in our human form of life. What aspect? What truth? That I am spirit soul. I am eternal, right? I don't die. I don't take birth. What changes I'm going through in my journey of life is only because of my body which I've got, which is repeatedly, taking birth, repeatedly dying. So this aspect, right? That's why human form of life is very valuable. That's the very beginning of the Vedanta Sutra advises that because we have this valuable form of human life, it is our duty now to inquire what is Brahman, what is the absolute truth. Right? So this is the point which we have been discussed just now, that Vedanta Sutra says, Athato Brahma Jigyasa, means what, now that you've got human form of life, what are you? Who are you? Inquire about our real nature. We are not this body. We are spirit soul. A man who is not intelligent enough does not inquire about this transcendental life. Instead, he inquires about many irrelevant matters which do not concern his eternal existence. Right? So we are eternally, very happily existing in our spiritual life. But we have right now come to a conception of life wherein we're thinking, I'm going to die one day, I'm going to finish, everything is going to be finished. So unless and until you inquire about these relevant aspects about our transcendental life, we will be like any other animal or entity without progressing in our spiritual life. From the very beginning of his life, he inquires from his mother, father, teachers, professors, books, and so many other sources. But he does not have the right type of information about his real life. This is the unfortunate situation. We are asked so many things, but because we are not trained or because we are not exposed to such important, relevant inquiries which we're supposed to have, so unfortunately, we end up only asking some things, mundane things, which are not at all helping our spiritual journey of life. So with this, we conclude today's session. Basically, we have more, as I told you, in 2 more sessions, we'll be covering this entire subject matter. Very philosophical and relevant topic, which all of us have to introspect and contemplate on these topics, which we have discussed today. So I request all of you to see that you read from this book, The Science of Self-Realization, this particular chapter called The Art of Dying, or Relevant Inquiries, and be prepared for the next session. If you have any questions, you can write in the comment box. We'll try to respond to the questions. So thank you, everybody. Jai Srila Prabhupada.